I'll repeat that figure for you one more time, $4,165,505. Hi again, everyone. Welcome to the fourth installment of the blog. Today's topic is a little bit different. I will be discussing some options for what you could do if you had an extra $10,000 lying around this year. I figured as you get older and you set goals for the year ahead, often these have a bit of a financial spin to them. So I thought compiling this video might be a useful way to take a look at a few things financially. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section. This discussion is going to be specific to an Australian context, and I am framing it around people loosely around my age, so late 20s, early 40s. However, the principles that I will be discussing are applicable generally worldwide. When I talk about the context, this is particular to Australia when I go through the last example I'm going to be looking at, so just keep an eye out for that. But that example, there are like foreign equivalents for what I'll be talking about anyway. I should say from the outset that I am not a financial advisor, and this by no means is financial advice, but more an opportunity to explore some of the options that could be utilised if you have a spare $10,000 lying around. The figure is not important. Everyone's situation is different, but I'm using $10,000 for illustrative purposes. So anyway, here we go. People my age used to get tarred with the brush that as a generation we spend too recklessly. However, recent retail economic data might suggest that this is no longer the case, and in fact they want us to spend more. So with the general economy in mind, I might spend my money on something I enjoy, like a big holiday or a new gadget or toy such as a lounge set or a massive TV and a PlayStation 4. Now, doing this would definitely bring me joy, and it's very hard to place a value on the joy someone extracts from a good or a service, such as tourism or purchasing consumer goods that they want. After all, you only live once and you should enjoy it. In economics, these options are sometimes known as a sunk cost, which means generally the money is spent and you won't be recovering any of the money or financial value of the goods or services you have purchased. Another option is buying something that is of use to you, that will improve your everyday quality of life and in some instances could be considered a necessity. Buying a new car would be a good example of this option. A car can allow you to travel both recreationally and to and from work. It can open up opportunities to better paid jobs due to your ability to be flexible with your travel. It can be even the cornerstone of your work. However, a car or any other good that has utility value will lose value or depreciate over time. I remember people saying to me that when you buy a car, it loses half its value once you leave the car yard. I don't know if this is numerically actually true or not, as I've never actually purchased a car brand new. However, accounting standards advise to depreciate the value of a vehicle between 1 and 5 years if it's used for business purposes. So that gives you an idea about the decline of value of cars. There are also the ongoing costs associated with them, such as maintenance, fueling the car, getting it serviced. So you also need to consider these options if making this sort of purchase. Also, considering this video, we've set the amount of $10,000 to invest or spend. Most new cars don't come in at that price, so I'm going to assume that there's a car price of $35,000, and we'll just have a look at what happens if you need to take out a loan to buy this car. Say you borrowed a further $25,000 at 9%, which is a loose average for a car loan in Australia, and you paid it back monthly over 5 years, you will end up paying almost a further $7,000 in interest. So these are some of the other considerations if you choose the car avenue for your $10,000. At this stage, you might be thinking maybe it's easier just to stick the money into a savings account and accrue some interest over time. Now, currently, this isn't a good long-term option as globally interest rates are very low. In fact, a few countries, namely Japan, Sweden, Denmark, and Switzerland, as well as the general European Bank, actually have negative interest rates. So in Australia, typically a savings account is likely to get you around 1.5% per annum. And the Reserve Bank is tipped to actually cut interest rates further in 2020. That means this savings rate could fall even further. Savings accounts also look extra bleak when you consider the effect of inflation on your savings account. The Reserve Bank in Australia has a target of 2 to 3% inflation. So, if that's higher than the interest rate you're getting, you're kind of technically losing money. So consider this. If you save $10,000 at 1.5% for a year, you would have made $150 in interest that year. However, if we take the lower amount of the Reserve Bank's targeted inflation rate of 2%, your $10,000 has effectively lost $200 in that same year. This means that over a year, your $10,000 is worth effectively $50 less than it was the previous year. Don't get me wrong, savings accounts definitely have their place when you are trying to save for something large, maybe like a house deposit. But in the current low interest climate, they are not the best place to park your money long term. Speaking of property, this is another option for which you can put your money towards. If you are renting, this is another example of a sunk cost. So it is good to own your own home. So this $10,000 could go towards a deposit for your home, but don't take too long to save up, as the purchasing power of your money may actually be shrinking if your interest rate is below the inflation rate. If you already own your home and have a mortgage, you could put this $10,000 onto it. If you are early on in your mortgage, this could save you a lot of money long term in interest payments and go a long way to owning your home outright quicker. If you are into the first year of a 30-year home loan, and assuming an interest rate for the life of the loan of 4%, which is actually higher than the current market interest rates, you never know, they might go up in the future, that this one-off $10,000 payment will save you $23,135 in interest over the life of the loan. Now that's not a bad little bit of savings, is it? Also, it will decrease the life of the loan and allow you to achieve the peace of mind of owning your property and not being beholden to the banks sooner. If this type of return or savings gets you excited, this next option might be even more tempting. That is, you could put the $10,000 into the stock market. Now, the stock market is perhaps the greatest wealth machine in the country. It has a lot of stigmas attached to it about being risky, and a lot of people get anxious about the daily price fluctuations, and they also often have a fear that the stock that they put their money into is going to go bust. But here are a few quick facts about the Australian Stock Exchange. The ASX 200, or the market index that is used to measure the performance of the economy or stock exchange in Australia, has had an average annual return of 13.1% since the year 1900. There has only been 23 negative years for the market index since 1900, of which only 10 of them exceeded losses greater than 10%. Conversely, this index has had 97 positive years, including the recent 2019, which saw a whopping return of 31%. 79 of these 97 positive years saw growth of over 10%. The stock market, despite its fluctuations, is where much of your superannuation or retirement savings gets invested, so there's definitely merit to investing in the ASX. Now, if you don't think you can pick the best stocks, that's okay. You can invest in an index fund that looks to mimic the performance of the ASX 200, and it is as simple as buying a stock. Here is a simple look at what your investment into the ASX 200 would look like. If you put $10,000 into the ASX 200 and let any dividends earned be automatically reinvested and left it there for 10 years, that $10,000 would likely be worth $34,247. If you held it there for 20 years, that $10,000 would become $117,288. Now, given that the retirement age in Australia is 67 and I am 32, if I was to leave that $10,000 for the 35 years until I hit retirement and had all dividends automatically reinvested, when I retire, that $10,000 would have become $743,346. Now, imagine if you knew this rate of return when you were 18 and decided to put $10,000 into the ASX 200 and left it there until you retired at the age of 67. So you hold it for 49 years in total, your $10,000 is going to be worth $4,165,505. I'll repeat that figure for you one more time, $4,165,505. Pretty good investment. By now you've probably noticed that these options I've been going through have gotten financially better as I've gone through them. And I have one more last option, which is perhaps the best in terms of financial return. However, this is dependent on your personal circumstances. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, in 2019, a full-time worker in Australia earned an average of $1,634 a week, or $84,968 a fortnight. I will use this average wage to run through this example. On top of this wage, you would also receive 9.5% in superannuation, Now, if you have a superannuation fund that invests in index funds, you could capture a lot of the returns I mentioned before when I went through the stock market example. However, on top of getting similar returns, you would be entitled to get an increased tax return for making a contribution to your super. The way this works is the first $25,000 you put into super each financial year is only taxed at 15%. Your employer contributions would equal $8,071.96. So by putting in the extra $10,000, you would still fall below the $25,000 threshold. If earning the average wage mentioned, you would get back 17.5% for every dollar you contributed out of pocket, as your marginal tax rate is 32.5%. When you subtract the super tax rate, that leaves 17.5%. This will give you back an extra $1,750 when you file your tax return for the year. With this example, it is important to be aware of the investing strategies of your super fund. Not all funds will offer an index investing approach, and you have to be mindful that there are investment and management fees associated with superannuation, and you will generally also be paying insurance premiums as part of your policy. Now, this means that your returns won't be as high as you would get just purely investing in the ASX. However, you do get that same sort of trend of growth, just at a lower percentage rate. So, as you can see, super, it's a pretty complex beast, and the recent Royal Commission sort of proved that despite the industry's best efforts, it's still very complex and most people don't fully understand it. But if you can understand how your fund works and are able to find a fund that is suitable for you, when you couple this with a basic understanding of the tax system, superannuation can be a powerful wealth building tool. If you live outside of Australia, there are different rules around retirement savings, and it's worth knowing them and whether these taxation principles are applicable. Anyway, that's it. That's my rundown on what you could do with $10,000 in 2020. Each of these options have their own merits, and I'm not saying one is better than the other. It is possible to even mix and match these options by dividing the $10,000 up. As I said at the start, the $10,000 figure is just that. You could input whatever figure that is appropriate to your own circumstances. There are obviously many other options that could be explored, but these are just a few examples that I've discussed here today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed to the vlog already, please click the subscribe button. Now, until next time, take care everyone, and I'll see you later. Bye.